Welcome back to our Rich YouTube channel. Today's class will be learning how to make this beautiful corset with velvet. Okay, so we know corset working with velvet can be a bit challenging, so in this tutorial I'll be teaching you how you can stabilize your velvet to make it very easy to work with, and we'll also be using it to sew this beautiful corset that we have here. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to make this corset, I'm going to be working with this velvet fabric, and as you know, velvet fabric is stretchy and may be a bit difficult to work with. So I'm going to be stabilizing it with this doll face fabric, so you should get a doll face of matching color, but this shade of purple is quite different from this, but if you look at the wrong side, is very close. So I'm working with this, and then I'm going to also need this aiming glue. It's going to help me in stabilizing also. So I'm going to take us through how we're going to be drafting it before we move it to the fabric, before we stabilize with this glue and our doll face fabric. So now I already have my pattern drafted already. This is a bust hair pattern, and I'm going to be adapting this to form our corset. So we do this a lot on the channel. This is my armhole line, this is my bust point, this is the under bust, and this is the waistline. So what I did was to get my bust span measurement, which is also the nipple to nipple, and I measured it from here to get this center line that you're seeing here. So I measured it up to my bust point, and then on the shoulder I divided what I have left on the shoulder, and then I connected that to the bust point also. I took a dart of 1 inch on both sides, on both sides of this center line, on the under bust and the waistline. Then I connected it to my bust point like this, and then for my bust dart I took a dart of 2 inches from my bust point downwards, and also connected that to the center bust point line. Okay, so that is what I have done so far. You can see this is 2 inches. So now the next thing is for us to form our corset cup. So it's a tube top, so I'm just going to create my neckline first before I form the corset. So for the neckline, depends on how deep you want it to be. For the center line between the corsets, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on the armhole line. So 1/2 inch, by the time I open it out, remember this is a half scale body, is going to give me 1 inch. So I'm having 1/2 inch here, and then I'm going to try to make it into a straight line. Okay, so for the height of the bust, from my bust point, I'm just going to go up by 3.5 or 4 inches, or you can just measure what you have as the difference between your bust point and your under bust. I have 3.5 inches, so I can measure the 3.5 inches here. You can also go higher or lower depending on what you want, and then using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect from that to the depth of my neckline. Okay, if this depth is okay for you, this is my armhole depth. So if you want it lower, you can just come down lower. So I can just come down by maybe 1/2 inch lower than what I have on my armhole, and then I'm going to connect from that point to this height that I have for my bust. So I'm trying to get a very, so once you have your perfect curve, you just connect it like that. Okay, so like I said, it's a tube top, so I don't need this armhole area. I'm just going to find a good curve to link this to my underarm area as well. And this is what I have. Okay, so now because it's a tube, you need it to be really firm on the upper part because there is no strap holding it together. So I'm going to take a dart of 1/2 inch on both sides on this upper part so that I can tighten the upper bust area, and then I'm going to connect that to my bust point using my slightly curved ruler. Okay, so you can actually add this back if you feel it to be too tight, but I really need it to be firm because you don't want your bust to be poking out. So I'm going to be taking this out. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to create my first bust cup. So to do this, I'm going to link from here all the way to the under bust with my curved ruler again, and then I'm going to connect it like this. So this is my first bust cup. So for the other bust cup, I need to close my bust dart first. So I'm going to open one of the darts here, then I'm going to close the bust dart. So after opening this dart now, I'm going to close this bust dart and hold it with a masking tape. So this pattern actually has a side seam allowance already. So to connect this to this upper part, this is where my actual measurement stops. This is where they are. Okay, so now it's closed. I'm going to come inwards by 1 inch or quarter of an inch from where my actual measurement stops, and then with my curve driller again, I'm going to connect from that point to my under bust for the other side, so that I can create the bust cup for the other side as well. So now all the cups, so it's connected there. The next thing is for me to cut out this pattern. So that is all I need to do. Right. We are not using the yoke, so we don't need this upper part. We just need this. And then I'm going to cut out the other dart and then remove our bust cups. Okay, so after taking that out, the next thing is to take out your cups. The first one, and this is the second one. So now you can label your cups so that it can guide you when you want to sew them together, especially if they are very similar. So now I have my cups. I'm going to gum my center front and side front together because I don't want too much seam line on my corset. So I'll just take them together like this and then use my masking tape to hold them in place. So that way I'm going to have just one single piece. Okay, so for the lower part, for the cup part, I'll label this center front and this side front, and then I can put an arrow here to indicate where to sew them, and also here to indicate where I'm going to join them together. So I'll set this front aside now and bring in the back. The back is quite simple. So I drafted my bodice already. So because it's a tube, we don't need the upper part. So here I'm just going to go down by 1 inch for my neckline. You can also maintain this straight line that you have there. So after going there by 1 inch there, I'm going to connect that to my armhole area like this. Okay, you should get a better curve. So with this curve, I'm going to connect it to my armhole area neatly. So this is better, and then that is all you need to do. So after connecting it to your armhole, I'm going to cut this upper part off because I do not need it any longer. So again, I don't want to have seam line on my dart area, so I'll just close the darts up so that I can have just one single piece. So after closing my dart, I'm going to hold it with my masking tape. So these are all the pattern pieces that I have. This is my center front, this is my front pieces, this is my front piece, the back piece, and these are the cups. So I'll go ahead now and cut this on my main fabric, which is the velvet, and then I'm also going to cut it on the doll face, which I'm going to use to stabilize it. So I'll do that and bring it back to show us what we have. So all the pattern pieces are cut out now. This is my front pattern. I cut one for the velvet and then 2 of it for the doll face, because I'm going to be lining the doll face with this, and then I'm also going to stabilize the velvet with the doll face. So the front part is cut on fold so that by the time you open it, you're going to have a complete bodice like I have here. And then this is the back. For the back, I cut 6. That's 2 for 4 for the lining and 4 for the main fabric, because it's separate, it's not cut on fold. So I have 6 of it. And then for the cups as well, I have 6, 2 velvet and 4 doll face material, so that I can also turn it with it. And then I went ahead to cut out my wording. This is what I'm going to use to pad it, but you can use a bra cup, a ready-made bra cup as well. So now the next thing we're going to do now is to stabilize our velvet. So this method can work with your velvet fabric or any soft fabric that you need to be stronger. Okay, so if your fabric is not so strong and you want it to be a bit thicker, you can also work with this velvet. So you can see the problem with velvet, especially if it's not an original velvet fabric. You can see the way it's rolling and folding, and sometimes it may be a bit difficult to work with because it's very stretchy, as we have seen. So now this is a thicker, it's a more stable fabric, and then I'm going to use that to stabilize it. So I'll take the fabric now, and then also take the velvet, the one that corresponds to each other. I'm making sure now that I have them the same. Okay, so once you're sure that it's the same, it's just folding over here. I'm going to bring in my hemming glue. Okay, so now once you have your hemming glue, you start placing it on the fabric. So you can see the way I'm cutting it is soft, so you can cut it easily. So I'm just going to arrange it close together on the fabric. So before I do this, I'm just going to place the fabric that I'm going to use to iron, because after arranging it, it's not advisable for you to be moving it about, so that you're not going to lose excuse me, so that you don't lose your placement that you have already arranged. So now I'm going to place it carefully, as we have seen, to cover up the entire, or you can just place it at intervals if you don't have enough hemming glue. But if you have enough, you can just place it in all, so that you don't see any gapping at the middle part. So now this is me arranging my hemming glue all throughout my fabric before I place my velvet on it. Okay, so I've played this round. Now you can see that it is all covered in it. So the next thing is to carefully place your fabric, your main fabric, on it, and then you iron it. So once you iron it, it's going to fuse the both of them together, so that you can have one single piece. So I'm going to carefully place it, making sure that my gum stay, that's my gum that I'm going to use to fuse them together, does not shake. Okay, so you make sure of that. I'm carefully bringing out the velvet that I've rolled inwards, and then once you secure that, you're going to place your iron, your hot iron on it. So the iron is going to fuse them together. Okay, so you can see I've carefully placed it on it. So now I'm going to bring in my iron. So when you're ironing it, you don't want to be brushing it about, so you just place it on it carefully, just enough that you'll be sure that the gum has melted them together. So just place it on it like this, apply a little pressure. If you have a heat transfer, you can also use this, because it will make it easier. Just put that right amount of pressure to fuse them together for you, but you can also use your hot iron, as I am doing. Okay, so I have done the same thing for all of them. Okay, so this is the one we were doing earlier. You can see how stable it is now, and you will not lose the lushness that you have on your velvet. It's still the same, but it's just thicker and more stable. It's very easy to work with now. Okay, so this is the back and this is the front as well. So I just placed my hemming glue in between them, and then I fused it together, so you can see how stable and easy to work with this have become now. I did the same thing for the cup also. So quickly Now I just used my marker to map out where I want my boning channels to be. You can draw out as many boning channel as you want. So now I'll just place my regular boning. I'm not going to create a channel for this because I can actually sew on this boning. So I'll just place it along the line now and then sew it on both sides. So when you're placing it, you leave half an inch on top and then half an inch below so that you can turn it easily. And then I'm going to place my boning on all of these channels now and sew. So after doing this, I'm going to bring in my cups. So I've also fused my wording to the cups. So the next thing is for me to sew the cups together. So I'll go ahead and sew them together and do the same thing for the lining, and then I'll bring it back to show us what we have. So I'm gonna head to add the boning channels, as you can see. So this is what we have so far, and I also sew in the bra cups together. So now I'm just going to fix it into the space that I have there, and I'm going to do this for the lining and the main fabric before we turn it out. Okay, so I fixed the cup, as you can see, and then I went ahead to sew my back to it. So now you just need to add your lining to your boning to the back as well, but I'm just fixing to the front because this is a tutorial, and you make sure you iron every step of the way. So I did the same thing for the lining as well. I fixed my cup and then I sewed the back to it. The last thing to do now is to place them against each other, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it all around, and then I'll leave a small space here to turn it out. Then I'm going to iron it, then we'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So I've gone ahead to sew it round, as you can see now. So I left a space at the center back here, so I'm going to turn it out through this space, and then I'm going to close it later and then iron everything flat. Okay, so I've turned it out. As you can see, it is neatly finished both in and out. This is the lining part and this is the main part. So now I'll iron it and take it to the mannequin so that we see what it looks like. So this is what the corset looks like after sewing everything together. You can see the boning channels, and I just added this trimming to beautify it. So making your velvet dresses like that will make it very stable and easy for you to work with. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.